Welcome to the first in a short series of video tutorials on various aspects of the Secant functionality. The first of these tutorials will be on running your first Secant job. A Secant job is a collection of information that describes a cutting task. It may be the task of cutting a single order or a group of orders, or maybe the task of cutting a whole week's production. You begin by giving the job a name and by specifying the three pieces of information that describe the task. The cutting list, which is the list of pieces to be cut, a stock file, the list of stock sizes that can be used, and a control file, the list of restrictions on the cutting patterns. You then ask Secant to add a set of cutting patterns for the job, which makes the collection complete, and you can generate reports or labels. A Secant job is self-contained. You can change it and regenerate the patterns at any time. It remains on your computer until you delete it. Creating and running a Secant job is done in 7 simple steps. Step 1. Creating the job. From the main menu bar, select the job menu and then select New to bring the job creation process. A dialog will appear into which you enter the name of the job. Click the Save button. At this stage, a job information window will appear where you can enter a title for the job, which will appear on reports, and you may also select from the different machine and policy configurations and stock files you have configured on the system. For the moment, we will leave these as default, and we will also select the default stock file. You will have the opportunity to change the controls later on. At this point, your job has been created and the job management dialog will appear. This menu contains all the commands to modify, run and view the current job. The current job is the one we are creating. Its name appears in the banner at the top of the window. From this menu, we will enter the cutting list, review the stocks and controls, generate the patterns and view the results. So moving on to step 2, entering the cutting list. Select the menu option Input Data, Edit Cutting List to open the cutting list for the current job. Each row of the cutting list describes one piece of size that is to be produced. As a minimum, you need to enter the dimensions of the piece, length and width for a panel, or just length for a bar, and the number of pieces that are required. You would normally also give the piece an identifying name to be used in diagrams and reports. If no names are given, or if the names are not unique, then Secant will add the row number to the names to make them unique. The cutting list table has a number of other columns that can be used to specify a longer description, the grain requirements, number of pieces that can be cut in excess of requirement, etc. This data is optional. The data can either be entered manually into the dialog or can be imported from third-party software or various spreadsheets. After describing all the pieces, click on the OK button to return to the job management menu. Next, review the stock file. Please note that a copy of the standard stock file is associated with the job, not the file itself. Any changes that you make for this job will not affect the standard file. Select the menu option Input Data and Edit Stock to open the stock file for the current job. Each row of the stock file describes one item of stock, sheet or bar, that is available for use in producing the pieces in the cutting list. As a minimum, you need to enter the dimensions of the stock item, length and width for a sheet or just length for a bar, and the number of this stock item that are available. A blank quantity means that the item has unlimited availability. A zero quantity means the item is out of stock. You would normally also give each item an identifying name to be used in the diagrams and reports. If no names are given, or if the name is not unique, then Secant will create unique names when the stock file is saved. You may also specify a longer description for the stock item which can be brought through onto printed reports. It is possible to define a library of different stock files on the system, which allows you to simply select your stock file on the job information screen in step 1, rather than entering the stock file individually for each job. Use the main menu Stock option to create or modify the stock available in the library. After describing each item, we click on the OK button to return to the job management menu. Next, you have the option to review the cutting controls. The control file for this job, which is created from the machine and policy configuration selected, which we chose on the job information screen. It contains information about trims, saw blade losses and other restrictions on the patterns that could be cut. Select the menu option Input Data, Edit Cutting Controls to open the Job Controls dialog. A variety of controls can be defined to configure the job in the exact way you wish. It is possible to define a library of configurations on the system which allow you to select from these on the job information screen in step we're on, rather than making control alterations individually for each job. For details of how to create and modify machine and policies, please see the help system. You've now created a Secant job with a cutting list, stock list and cutting controls and are ready to generate the patterns. Select the menu option Optimize, Generate Patterns to begin pattern generation. While the patterns are being generated, a progress window is shown in the centre of the screen. The screen shows the yield statistics for the best set of patterns found so far. You can stop the pattern generation at any time by pressing Cancel and generate reports on this best pattern set found up to that point. Alternatively, you can press the Speed Up button. At this setting, pattern generation will become faster, but the yield may be poorer. When the pattern generation is completed, this dialog disappears and an optimization summary is shown. This completion report gives a brief summary of the yield achieved by the cutting patterns, along with wastage figures and book efficiency. This report will also detail any failure to produce all the pieces in the cutting list. This can happen if there is insufficient suitable stock material. When you close this dialog, you will return to Job Management menu. We can now view and modify the patterns. Select the menu option Output and Diagrams to open the pattern editor. The editor screen has three areas: the menu and toolbar, the diagrams. We can right click against any piece, waste rough area to pop up the size and description, and also the report. This report adjusts automatically to reflect any changes made to the patterns. The user may select the report that is shown here through the Setup dialog, accessed through the main menu. You may edit the contents of the patterns by dragging and dropping pieces within the patterns, or you may use the toolbar buttons to add or remove pieces and strips, change the stock item used for a pattern, or change the pattern repeat. You may also undo any changes you have made, and on closing the dialog and returning to the Job Management menu, you have the option to save any changes which have been made using the pattern editor, which would now be reflected in the printed reports. Secant has several different report blocks which can be viewed using the Output View menu. It also has several full reports available which can be configured and viewed through the Output Report menu. It is also possible at this stage to generate numeric control files for your automatic saw if this option has been configured on your system.